Welcome to Washington East to West Sports. This is episode 26. I am Matt Beatty, joined alongside, as usual, by Sean Beatty and Kevin Arodol. If you want to get involved in the show, go ahead and tweet at us. I am at Beatty_Matt. Sean is at Sean_Beatty. Kevin is at Kev Believes. The first team believes being a 3. Go ahead and subscribe to us on YouTube. Follow our page on the Eli Network. Just let us know what you think. And gentlemen, we are going to get to the big news from over the weekend and also into today, actually. So Mariners president, former Mariners president, I should say, Kevin Mather was seen in a YouTube video over the weekend. Let me just read off Ryan Davish's of the Seattle Times tweet. He covers the Mariners. Besides Mariners fans, a quick list of people offended, insulted in Mather's video. Kelnick, Julio, Marco, Evan White, Seager, Iwakuma, Japanese players, Latin players, Taiwan, Pax, Luis Torrens, MLBPA, and Everett Memorial Stadium. So among the comments was talking about how they were manipulating service time and how he didn't like paying Iwakuma's interpreter.
Same with Julio.
Same with Julio, among other things, saying he didn't speak very good English, and which is, from what we've heard from Twitter and all these other reports, is absolutely not true. So this was also an event at the Bellevue Breakfast Rotary Club on February 5th. So he said these things a while ago. Gentlemen, I just want to get your thoughts real quick. I'll share my thoughts afterwards. But we all saw – well, I didn't actually see the video. I did not watch the video. It was taken down before I actually got a chance to watch it. I don't know if both of you watched it, but I was able to read Ryan Davish's story right after the video came out. So I got pretty much all the gist of it. But Kevin, what were your thoughts on what you saw there and your overall reaction to this whole thing that's happened over the weekend and today?
Well, first of all, my name is Steve. I changed my name because I didn't want to be associated with Mr. Mathers because we had the same first name. So you may now call me Steve. No, I'm kidding. Anywho, yeah, it was honestly, it's kind of the final straw because with previous sexual harassment claims against him and adding this on top, like it just had to be done. And the fact that it took all the way till today to do it too was kind of a little bit of a shocker, but I'm just glad it got done anywho. And props to the Mariners organization for, they say he resigned, but it was pretty much just either you resign or we're firing you. And the fact that they even gave him that option, like he should be like he should have just been fired flat out. Like, because literally it's just poor. Like your organization is already struggling because you're a franchise that has a very good youth system, like good farm system, and you're eventually going to want to bring over veteran players to solidify the rest of that team because farm system is a big part of it, but also getting free agents and stuff like that. You want to make this a place to play, and having a guy like Kevin Mathers being your president doesn't really help that a whole lot, being a piece of crap that he is, type of thing. As a person who's done interpreting and stuff like that, that's just, yeah, especially nowadays with you just can't say stuff like that. You can't, if he can't speak English, he can't speak English. But you should, that it's, if he wants to learn English, that's cool, but you can't
he does know English. That's the whole point.
Yeah, but at the same time too, depending on how often he uses it, it really just depends on the situation.
Well, he has a show on the Mariners official Twitter where he interviews other players, and the whole thing is in English. He has a show where he interviews teammates, and it's all in English.
Yeah.
So he speaks good enough to talk to them.
Yeah.
Sorry if I cut you off.
Maybe he feels more comfortable having an interpreter there if he feels like it's shaky, if on certain matters, especially in terms of contracts and stuff like that. I could see wanting to have an interpreter there just to make sure everything is, straight.
Yeah, I get that.
And also, this country is a melting pot, so it's English
exactly.
is not a national language. It's not required. It's
my issue
ridiculous.
Was it wasn't. Racist. It wasn't that he was just complaining this year, because he's obviously complaining about Iwakuma, who hasn't been here for a while.
Mm-hmm.
So my issue was he is complaining about Julio Rodriguez a couple of years ago, not knowing English and doing all these other things. My issue is you are a president of a baseball team who you went out as an organization and found Iwakuma and are pissed that this guy doesn't speak English when you went to Japan to recruit a guy and are surprised he doesn't speak English. You went to, I can't remember the exact city where Julio's from, the Dominican, and surprised that a 16-year-old doesn't know fluent English. Like, you guys went out there and found these guys in different countries and then are mad that they don't speak English. Like, you actively made the choice. And like, again, here's Austin Shetton. I just found this teammate of Julio. He goes, he helped my mom pass her Spanish assignment while she was doing chemotherapy every week. And they had all their meetings were in perfect English. Like, they talked in English while he helped her pass. Like, there's examples of Julio speaking very good English and him just, it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous for players born in different countries. Iwakuma was like, what, 31 when he came over here? Imagine being 31 and being like, go to another country, you better know English right now. Like, I mean, it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous to think that. Or a 16-year-old kid, like, from the DR and is like, oh, you got to figure it out real quick. That's not, that's ridiculous. And again, like Matthew said, he talked about openly manipulating player time, which I don't know if you guys saw, but Jared Kelnick talked about it when the Minor League Player Association came out and said we were deeply disturbed by the Mariners organization, what they said about like manipulating player time. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of an unspoken rule, but once you say it, it's not really unspoken anymore. You just admitted to doing it. And that's the whole, like, I don't see the Mariners winning any arbitration cases coming up anytime soon, like with these players who are like, oh, you manipulated my time, I need more money. I don't see them winning that anytime soon. I did see, is it from Churchill, I believe, but I do have the video. Thanks to my buddy Brian D85 on Twitter. Go follow him. He shared the video. He's able to download it. So I don't know if that's gonna do anything, but I was able to see that what's his name? Church posted a comment that I agreed with. That he said, where is it exactly? But he said that the Mariners need to. Oh yeah, right here. Need to build the 26th best man player roster right now, and that means now you can't use the loophole of player time. Right now, it's your 26 best guys. You can't go to a clubhouse now and be like, where your president got caught manipulating player time, and then be like, oh, sorry, Jared Kelnick, you're not like one of the best players on this team. Like, I'm sorry, you're gonna play Marmoleos over Jared Kelnick. Like, you don't have that leg to stand on anymore. You just admitted you were doing it, and if you're gonna fire him and clean your hands of all this, you then can't do it a month later. Like, he's got to kind of play now. Or Logan Gilbert, like Matthew said, got to like call him out too. If the guy's better than Justin Dunn, you have to play Logan Gilbert. Like, you can't then go back on your word a month later. And we're gonna find out here, and we're gonna find out how pissed these players off. Pissed off these players are gonna be here in a little bit if they do all this, say all this, fire these guys, say all the right things, and then immediately backtrack. Yeah. I hope they do the right thing and play the guys.
To add on to it too, like, I'm glad they did it because one, it would for like the whole going back to the interpreter thing, like it makes relationships for future stuff, like getting players out of Japan, worse if you have a guy like Kevin Mathers around. Because if you see, like if you get more young kids out of Japan or out of, Southern America, Central America, who don't speak any English, and English is one of as an English, like a language manager, English is terrible. It's like one of the worst languages to learn because it has no rhyme, reason, or rules. It's terrible based on other like Latin languages and Asian, languages from other, Asian continents and stuff like that. But to say that that it's a pain in the butt for them to pay for that stuff, it doesn't make players want to come to your organization. Like, what if the next big star who's like 15 comes out of Japan? And Mariners have a good track record of getting players out of Japan, but with Kevin Mathers saying, oh, we don't like paying interpreters and stuff like that, what makes them want to go to the Mariners? And the same thing with like all these things that going on with the farm system and stuff like that with contracts and stuff. Players are not going to want to get drafted to that, with everything that's kind of like Kevin Mathers was putting in kind of a bowl there. It's like, do I want to be a part of this now? Type of thing. Like future players, like, do I want to go to the Mariners? If Kevin Mathers had been staying around, and the Mariners are going to have to, like Sean said, do some cleanup to kind of patch that relationship to show that this is the place where you want to be versus like just asking for a trade, so to speak. I don't think it's going to be what's going on in football like right now with Deshaun Watson, but and stuff like that in baseball, because there's different, it's two different sports and contract dealings and stuff like that. But it's the fact that they got rid of Kevin Mathers is a good step, but they still have to clean up the mess that he laid. So,
yeah, I mean, those comments were just, I mean, flat out awful, racist. I mean, the Mariners organization has a great history of international players. I mean, from when we were younger in '95, like Alex Rodriguez and Joey Cora and those guys, and then Ichiro was with us for a long time. Some of my favorites: Carlos Guillen, Freddie Garcia, Edgar Martinez. Like, there's just so many guys who come from so many different places to play for baseball teams. Like, these comments are just absolutely awful. And I think all of us were looking at our phones today just waiting for him to be fired or resign. I wish they would have fired him, because it would have made a stronger statement, I feel like, to the players that this is not tolerated. And we were all kind of, I mean, at least I was kind of waiting by the phone to just wait for them to actually do it. And it took a little longer than I thought it would. Like, I thought it would just be like one of the first things they did in the morning. Like, there's just no excuse for saying things like this. And I was going through tweets over the weekend, and Julio tweeted out motivation. There was a tweet from Julie Seeger, Kyle's wife, saying, "So should we put our house in Seattle on the market now?" And then Julio also had a tweet that, Sean, you subtweeted, saying, and I took that personally, with the Michael Jordan gif. So the Mariners.
I retweeted. I didn't subtweet him. I did not.
Well, I mean,
I'm on Julio's side. I'm on Julio's side.
I mean, you quote tweeted him. You quote tweeted him. That's what I meant to say.
Yes.
So yeah, just to hear these kind of things and to see the outcry on social media, like, it was good to see fans coming to the defensive players and just absolutely condemning this. And good on the Mariners for doing the right thing. But at the same time, it's going to be hard to repair those relationships with these players that, are putting their trust in you, and, you want to sign them to deals, down the road, but will they, look back on this and go, well, this was something that happened while I was here, and I don't really want to be a part of that anymore. So it affects things off the field as well. It affects contracts, and it affects, how like Kevin said, like getting players from Japan. Like, the Seattle Mariners have been welcoming Asian American players and Asian players for a long time, because we're the closest one to the market. So it just makes a lot of sense for them. And, this could fray that relationship. The Mariners played a game in Japan for Ichiro for him to leave. And, after this, like, would they even want us to come back? It's hard to say. So good on the Mariners I guess he resigned, but I think we can all safely say that he probably would have been fired, I hope. But
it's probably one of those where they gave him the option.
Yeah.
Fire
So
part of me thinks that they did it just because they're trying to avoid lawsuits from Kevin Mathers too. Like,
what leg does he have to stand on that he's wrongfully fired?
He's got no leg,
and it's a free fire state in Washington. So
the court hearing is they just hitting play on the video and it going for 45 minutes, and then everyone leaving the courtroom. Like,
I think it's also the fact that, like, ownership is so scattered. There's not like one main, so it's kind of like, I don't know if it's like certain members kind of like on the fit, like some are like all for it, like get him the hell out of here, like, and then some are like, well, like, I don't know, like there's not like a giant majority shareholder like that's just like dumping, type of deal.
Yeah,
like owner-wise.
Yeah, so. I mean, like, I saw Ryan Divish earlier was wondering about the timing, and he probably has like buyouts and ownership stakes, so there's probably lawyers involved. But it's
I mean, they probably also wanted to investigate it too.
Yeah,
like if you're going to fire your president, you want to investigate. And then I think after a day or two, I know like the writing was kind of on the wall type of deal, but they probably wanted to hear his side of the story, and then pretty much after like a day,
he released a statement and everyone's like, okay, sure, like now you're trying to backtrack and cover your tracks, and it's just like,
And then I think after about 24 hours to 40 hours, or like once the writing was on the wall, they're just kind of like, okay, you're fired or you can resign. Like,
Yeah.
it's your choice.
So I do want to discuss what Sean said about the manipulating players and coming up. So I mean, based off of everything that has happened, and Jared Kelnick 2 hours ago put out a statement or quote tweeted the MLBPA communications statement about them looking into managing players and all that sort of thing. So you know we've talked about they're not ready yet and all that sort of thing. Like, do you think this kind of changes the way that that sort of thing is handled in the future? There are negotiations coming up between the Players Association and the MLB after this year. So when you look at it from that point of view and hearing the things that Mather said, I got to look at the players and think they're going to want to not allow this to ever be possible again, because you guys have mentioned he's not ready, he needs to develop in the minors, and that's I'm sure there's probably some merit to that. But at the same time, when you have a guy who is the future of your organization, and last year he says he's ready and he wants to play, and then and then there was these comments from Mather about we weren't putting him in there, we're going to put someone just random in left field, we weren't going to put him out there. So it kind of begs the question, like, if a player is potentially your future and they have all this upside, like, can you get away with like developing them like you guys want them to develop in the minor leagues? Like, I just don't see it being a possibility more. And I say that because, if Kelnick is the player you guys say he is, and he believes he is, I don't see what it does for him to go against minor league pitchers. Like, I don't understand what that does to benefit him. I think if he's ready to be in the majors, like, put him out there and let him take his lumps. Like, kind of like when you are like drafted a first round pick in the NFL, you're going to go through some probably poor games before you really kind of pick everything up. And that just makes more sense to me than having a guy sit in Tacoma for a year or two, Sean,
Okay,
what do you
well,
think?
I'll say a couple of things to that. I've always been on the adage of I don't really believe in the whole idea of rushing somebody. There's no evidence to really support it. I mean, people point to Mike Zunino as like he was doing fine, then they rushed him to the majors. It's always like you'll never know what he would have been if you slowed down. I will say, Matthew, like, we don't know if Jared Kelnick is ready yet because he played barely at Double-A. I would say if it was a normal year and there's no COVID, everything goes as it's supposed to and projected. He's a September call-up last year. Like, but with a shortened season and no real camp, it's hard to say how much he progressed. And I agree with not calling him up last year because of the COVID shortened season. If it had been a regular season, he probably gets called up. The issue is, like, there's such a difference between rookie ball and like even Double-A that you need them to get their lumps at each level. So you can't just like have 2 weeks at a level and then be like, oh, you're hot, you're good. You need to, like, okay, are they constantly that good? Okay, because he was a high school guy. So like Mike Zunino came out of college. So he tore it up in rookie ball for like super short A for a little bit. You're like, okay, he's much better than this. And they moved him on. But like Kelnick was a high school kid. He needs to sit at these positions for a little bit, at least like half a season. Okay, when you dip again, can you come back? Okay, he did. Let's move him up to Double-A. That's kind of like they're taking their lumps at different levels. You can't send this 18-year-old kid to Triple-A because he's just going to get eaten alive. And he might never recover, might never learn to adjust. He needs to learn to adjust at each kind of level. Mike Zunino, college players are a little different with that. But high school, an 18-year-old kid, it is. So I think, to get a roundabout way of saying it again, I think we're not sure he was even 100% ready with a shortened season last year. But I think this year, if he plays the best in spring training with what happened, he needs to be on the 26-man roster. You can't go back. I will say this before I go to Kevin too. The players are negotiating next year. The contract is up. However, minor leaguers are not part of the union negotiations. So all negotiations are done by major league players. They don't have to fight for the minor leaguers and their call-up rights. And in the past, they have not. So it's I don't know if he's going to get resolved. Minor league baseball really can't do anything. We called it I was texting Kevin and a buddy, I called the Chris Bryant rule because The Chicago Cubs, when Chris Bryant came up, they called him up the day after the minimum to get him another year. The day after, like the first 20 minutes they could call him up, they did, but not a minute before. And you all knew what was happening, but they did it. And minor league baseball couldn't do anything about it. And so I don't think this changes anything, even when someone says they're doing it.
Can I respond to that real quick, Kevin?
Go ahead.
So I understand the development part, but what about a guy who thinks he's ready and this might alienate him from being a long-term signing down the road? Like, what if you could have made him happy and maybe signed him like to a longer-term deal? Like,
he wasn't going to.
How do you know that?
A top 10 prospect in baseball is not signing a deal before they play the majors. They're like,
no. I'm not saying before they get in the majors. I'm saying down the road. Like, if he turns into the player you think, then
that's not off the table. Like, you can make him plenty happy while he's in the majors. That's not off the table. I don't think anything is set in stone yet. My issue was like, he might think he's ready, and I could talk to him as the owner, and be like, look, it's a shortened season, man. If you tear it up in spring training next year, you are starting day roster guy. That's it. You're the starting day roster. Or if you're not if you're not quite there, we don't think you're quite ready. Take 2-3 weeks in AAA. I don't care about the date of your the manipulation day. If you're hot when you start out, you're like a week. You're 10 days hot. I'll call you up. I don't care. But it's based off playing now. Like, and that's what I'll tell Jared Kelenic right now. I'll be like, if I'm the owner, I'll be like, look, at this point, it's based on how you play in the field. I don't care at what point of season it is. I don't care where we are. If it's spring training, if it's 2 weeks in, if it's the end of the season. If you're playing hot at the level we put you at, or in spring training, you're on the team, period. I give him the chance to prove it right now. And if he doesn't, then he sits back down there and they get another year. If he does, then they play him. That's what it is.
Kevin?
Yeah, to try to not like repeat a whole lot of what he said. The only other thing I would add is just like a lot of players are going to think that they're ready for major leagues. I mean, that's what you're kind of born and bred to believe. But major league pitching is at a whole different level than AA and AAA. Like, you're going to be going against guys like Scherzer, Verlander. Like, that's a whole different ball game when you're facing that. Especially like different shifts, they're going to be shifting different stuff. Like, defense is better. Like, it's I don't want to say it's like college football to NFL. There are some similarities, but not to the full extent. But, and I don't want to go into a long spiel of the differences, but it's not as easy as a lot of people think. Like, he's young still, so, and I
love that he thinks he's ready. I love
exactly. Like, I don't want to. I'd rather have that than a guy who'd be like, well, I don't know quite yet, like, type of deal. Like, at worst case scenario, Sean already mentioned, like, be with the Rainiers for 2 weeks, 3 weeks. If you're hitting like 350 or like above 300, like, consistently, and your field work is good too, like, we'll bring you up. But you got to have both, and even though like this year at itself doesn't really matter because the Mariners aren't really going to make a playoff push. So I guess there's more reason to do it, because even if it's like, say, if his fielding still needs a little bit of work, so to speak, like his bat's good, but his fielding's still a little off.
His fielding is very good. I'll just say that. Yeah.
I know. I'm trying to play like serious devil's advocate here. We all know it's really good.
Yeah.
But, or, something like he's, like, he has trouble against lefties or something, it'd be something ticky-tacky, but I love, like I said, I love the fact that he wants it, but it's kind of like a be careful what you wish for type of thing. Cause I don't want him to come up and then he hits like 220 and then like gets down on himself and then gets like in a slump that he doesn't like. I want to make sure that he's mentally ready and physically ready to take that next step, so to speak. Because a lot of guys, they think they do come up and then they hit like 220 and then they just don't. They get in a little funk and they're like, whoa, type of deal.
Dustin Ackley was hot his first year, never adjusted, was never a player ever again.
Yep.
So, yeah, I want
to make sure they're ready on both sides.
Like, I hear what you guys are saying, but I kind of relate it to almost the Russell Wilson situation at this point. Like, he is saying what he wants, and if the Seahawks don't give it to him, he walks. I feel like it's the same thing in this scenario.
He has
Kelnick
like
wanted.
7 years left on his deal. He can't walk.
Well, no. But
Like-
when he does have the opportunity to walk, what would make him want to stay? The management didn't want to bring him up when he said he was ready. He played well. He bet on himself, and now what's to keep him in Seattle other than maybe
How
money?
does he know he's ready?
How does he know he's ready?
He's never faced a major league pitcher. I mean, like not with any consistency. Like, how does he know? He's never even played at AAA.
But at some point, you have to find out. Like
that's all I would sit down and tell him is like, dude, you've had 92 at bats at AA. You've barely played at AA, and I'm willing to play you at AAA to start the season. But we're not. You haven't even had 100 bats at AA, and you want to go to majors. Let's be realistic here. And I know he killed it. He had a WRC plus of 133 at AA. Like he's good. But I mean, like Kevin said, that AA to majors is a jump, man. Evan White did that jump, and he batted 170 this year. Like, let's calm down. Like, and that's why I agree with you, Matthew. But you have 7 years to fix that relationship.
I guess
to sign
a sense
an extension.
of urgency too, because he didn't play ball last year, and so he's probably like just at the grip.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I should have been at this level now. Like, I should have got September call-ups. I should be on the brink of making the roster.
I think me and Kevin agree. He probably should be day one starter.
Yeah,
but
he probably is.
But like it should and is like the Mariners will find out if he is very quickly, not we think. And that's all that takes is spring training. And that's all I would tell him is like, look, all it takes is spring training. And you prove it, you're on the team. That's it, period.
Yeah.
I mean, and you guys have been saying, they're not making a playoff push. Well, they haven't been a playoff factor for the last 20 years. So I don't really see that
They lost the playoffs twice by like 2 games.
But they haven't made it. Like they haven't made it.
They were definitely a factor when they lost the playoffs in the last game like 4 years ago. Like I mean, like they were a factor.
They haven't made it.
They were 2 games out of the wild card 3 years ago, and they cruised home.
But now that entire team is basically gone. So
it is all gone.
Yeah,
no. Kyle Seager's still there.
Yeah,
there we go. Kyle Seager's still there. There we go.
But I get your point, Matthew. But I would say I would just talk to Jared Kelnick as the new owner and be like, look, we're going this way, and I'm going to be transparent with you. Play well in spring training, day one. We're turning a new page. That's it.
Like, and I would talk to Kelnick too and be like, what's so wrong with being in Tacoma for April? Like, how about like
if he kills it in spring training, you
but like if he's solid, like say he's 300-ish and he's and his fielding's very good too. Like, be like, hey, we'll bring you up in May if you just do solid. Like, I get he's a young kid. He wants to show himself really bad, but like a month in Tacoma is not going to hurt him. Like, literally,
like Matthew said, what if he comes up and hits 430 in spring training and you send him to Tacoma?
Well, I mean, if he's hitting 430 in spring training, there's no fucking. But
what if he hits 280 in spring training? My question is like
for me, if he doesn't play this year, I do not understand what's going on.
He's 100% playing. The issue is when
he's going to play. It's just when, yeah.
But like if he hits 280, how do you justify him not playing over Marmoleos? You know who Marmoleos is. He's not that guy. So if you're 280 and you hit a bunch of dingers, I'm like, look, Marmoleos, that's not you, kid. Like that's Jared Kelnick's job. Like he doesn't even have to play well. He doesn't have to go like 400. I would say like just play like okay, and it's your job. Like don't look over because in spring training he's gonna face the Scherzers and the Verlanders. Well, not Verlander this year, but like Scherzers and that type of stuff, and see how you do against those guys. See what it looks like, and if you hit 280, even as a 21-year-old who doesn't even play spring AAA, I'm willing to take the gamble on you because you think you're ready.
If he starts with us, you're going to see Garrett Cole in the first month. Like,
again, he ain't getting babied in. Well, the AL West is going to kind of have not a ton of pitchers this year, but
because we play the Yankees in the first month and we play.
Hey, if he wants to be a superstar and he projects like he is, top 5 prospect, you better get ready to face some Garrett Coles.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I hear what you guys are saying. I'm sure we probably won't ever come to agreement. I'm just saying, like, play your prospects. Like, that's all I want. That's all I want.
You can't just call them all up, though. Like,
I know you can't just call them all up, but, like, play your future. Like, let's see it. Like,
Yeah,
And
That's all I'm saying.
that's
I
what's-
know. Yes.
That's
yes.
what's going to happen this year. At the
Okay.
end,
I very much
Unfortunately,
hope so.
month in the season, there'll be at least 2, if not 3 guys called up. Logan Gilbert will be called up, Jared Kennelich, and maybe Hancock. I don't know the thoughts on that. He's never even pitched a professional pitch before.
They said Cal's going to get called up this year too.
Yeah. So, and maybe Kirby. You got some Sam Delpline. There's gonna be a lot of kids coming up, Matthew. Like this team is going to turn over very fast.
My only statement to these prospects would be just like, I get it. Unfortunately, it's part of the deal that everybody's gonna have to face. Like COVID kind of screwed a lot of the young kids over.
It's slow. People were playing
it
the majors.
sucked. But it happened. We have to deal with it. It slowed down your progress because you didn't have a season in the minors. Like I get that you should be at this point, but a pandemic happened. It happens. It's same with like kids in schooling and stuff like that. Like they're off track too. It just happens. They just got to realize it's a part of life and go on.
I mean, games will be starting early next week, so we'll kind of have a pretty good idea of how everyone looks. So,
Just
gentlemen, we can see. We'll talk about the top 10 prospects according to Kylie McDaniel of ESPN here in a little bit. But let's get to some Seahawks news while we're a half hour into the show. So I do want to start out with the news today that Mike Iupati, 2-year player for the Seahawks, has retired. We did talk about Mike Iupati on the show a little bit as a free agent. We said not to sign him. I can't say that he's like so long. See you later. Like I don't like that. Yeah. Sorry, Kevin. I didn't mean that. But
it's all good.
Yeah.
It's all good.
He tried his best. He had some injuries. I know he was a really good player earlier in his career before he got to Seattle. So he was an Idaho Vandal. So he's got a place in the Northwest, I think. So I enjoyed watching Mike play for the short time he was here, even though it obviously could have gone better. But it was it's nice to have him have some closure for himself and not wonder if they're gonna bring me back or if anyone's gonna sign me. So I'm sure he's gonna have a nice retirement. You guys have any thoughts on Mike Iupati retiring?
He wasn't horrible. Like he wasn't like the worst guard in the league. Wasn't great, but I heard everything I've heard. He's a very nice gentleman, so I wish him the best. But he had a good run. He played till he's 34. That's a pretty good career, and wish him luck.
Ditto.
All right. So let's talk about another free agent, KJ Wright. So I was browsing Twitter today. He quote tweeted. Sorry, I keep saying subtweeted.
You keep saying subtweeted. Subtweeted is so negative. Yeah,
I'm sorry. Quote tweeted. There was someone on Twitter who said he should take the hometown discount. He's a great Hawk, but he's 31 now and has slowed down a bit. He deserves big money, but not the same as when he was 25. KJ saw this and said, if you could show me 3 plays from last season where I slowed down, in quotations, I'll give you 2 tickets to a game next year. Now, who knows if that's in Seattle at this point. And Michael Sean Duger of The Athletic also tweeted out a video of KJ saying it makes no sense for him to take a discount to stay with the Seahawks. So, gentlemen, I just want to throw this question to you. We talked about KJ and his contract situation, how much we'd pay to bring him back. What do you think kind of this means for the Seahawks? Because we've talked about their cap issues and their lack of space for signing hardly any free agents at this moment in time. What would you guys do? Now, I kind of thought of a suggestion that I don't think is going to be very popular, but if he might think about signing somewhere else, there is the option of the franchise tag. Now, no one likes the franchise tag, but it would prevent him from going elsewhere, and he would get paid top dollar for 1 year. Now, that would take a huge chunk out of the salary cap for the Seahawks this year, and it probably would not be very affordable for them to do anything else. But it's hard not to see the value of KJ Wright, especially after these last couple of years on that 2-year deal he had, especially this past decade that he's been on the team. So I really want the Seahawks to make this signing. It sounds like it might be very difficult to do that, but what are you guys' thoughts on KJ's comments? Kevin, I'm going to throw it to you first.
I get that because let's be frank, KJ was a madman last year. He was very good. But I also get the guy's comments too. Like I get he feels great, but Father Time doesn't give a crap about that type of stuff. Father Time eventually wins. And it just depends on when Father Time wants to show up and slap KJ down. When that will be, especially just based on the average play, age of when he's kind of at that break point of when linebackers start to kind of go down. But like, depends on how much he puts into his body, how much he's, doing to prevent Father Time from showing up, so to speak. To be honest, I don't want to even see anything beyond a 2-year deal, just because you're just risking it at that point. I think KJ is expecting something like that just because he has been playing very well, and also because when you're a player, you want that type of money, you want that type of contract to where you're set, even though he is. I mean, he's already made a lot, but it's still more money on top of it. So I would say you do want to pay him not crazy amount. I'm not saying make him the highest paid linebacker, but give him a fair amount if you can afford it. You're going to have to cut Diggs and other players that we're probably going to get to here in a little bit, based off rumors. But I personally wouldn't give him more than 2 years, just because one, you've drafted linebackers to kind of take over in that position eventually, and you need to kind of see what you have there. In BBK, Barton, and what's his
Brooks.
Cook? Yeah. Brooks. Yes, sorry, Brooks from the first round. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do, but I get why KJ's doing it, because he does deserve to be paid for what he did last year. But it's all about what you can do in the future. So,
Sean?
I mostly agree with Kevin. I say I can be talked into 3 years, but yeah, Kevin is right. I mean, you're approaching Father Time, but he was so good last year. Like I said when we talked about it, he's my number one priority, because unlike all these other guys, you know what KJ Wright can do. You don't have to worry about, like, can Jordan Brooks turn into a KJ Wright when you have KJ Wright? Like, so I agree with Kevin. He's not the highest paid linebacker. I'm not going anywhere near that, but he deserves to make more than he's making now. I mean, $7 a year for him it's too little. I agree with what he said. Like Kevin said, he was amazing last year. That dude, like, single-handedly took on I don't know if you saw, but on one of the tweets that he said, he took on Kyler Murray one-on-one in the open field and played it perfectly, like we talked about. Used the sideline, didn't run at him straight away, and just stood there and made Kyler Murray make the move. Like, he played it perfectly and shut down Kyler Murray multiple times. I go, if you have a couple Kyler Murrays, then Lamar Jackson, all those guys are nothing. Like, honestly, and he played it perfect. And so I would pay him. I would find a way. Can you structure it as, like, maybe some salary, let's say bonus or some guaranteed or something, to, like, maybe backload it a little bit to give yourself, like, if you do a 3-year deal, like, load it with the last 2 and maybe give yourself a couple years to figure out some wiggle room with, like, some money, and, like, make it very team friendly in the first couple of years. That's how I would try to go about it. But yeah, he needs to make upwards of 10 a year. I mean, I don't see how he doesn't even consider deals not 10 a year.
Because then you also have to consider next year you got to pay Bobby.
Oh, I mean, that's
gonna be tough.
Bobby's gonna be the same age. That's kind of the issue. But Bobby, yeah. But but again, you could backload these things, and they're gonna run into some problems. Don't get me wrong. They've made some bad moves, and that's why, stealing on the next point, they might cut Carlos Dunlap. But, like, yeah, they're gonna have to free up some money somewhere, and extending players is a nice way to do it, or cutting players is a nice way to free up money. So that's what I do, Matthew. 3-year deal, 11 a year.
Yeah, let's, because you mentioned the 10 million a year. You just mentioned Carlos Dunlap rumors. Like, Carlos Dunlap is making 14 million. I would just, if that is a rumor that is absolutely true, like possibly true, if you do cut Dunlap, I feel like that means you're paying KJ.
Well, can I ask you too? Would you rather legitimately Dunlap or KJ? Who do you want right now?
KJ.
Kevin?
Yeah, KJ.
Me too. You kind of got to pick KJ right now. And you could save $3 million or $2 million by cutting Dunlap and signing KJ. Minimum, because you could backload KJ's. So, save $2 million on the player.
And, Dunlap did sign that big deal with Cincinnati, and his production hasn't quite been up to that amount of money. So could you cut him and re-sign him for something cheaper? Maybe, but
I don't know about that.
Would Dunlap maybe just walk and go find something else? Probably. But I think at this point, I think the priority is KJ. We need to pay him. We need to find a way to pay him. So that's just going to be the most difficult thing, is finding a way to pay him. And hopefully more than what other teams will offer, and he'll want to come back to the Seahawks and play with Bobby again. But let's move on to some more rumors that were circulating today, courtesy of you guys on Twitter. From what I saw, who tweeted that to you guys?
Kevin did. Oh, our buddy Matt.
Okay, not me, but someone else.
You're Matthew. He's Matt.
Okay. So Jonnu Smith is rumored to be pursued by the Seahawks. Not sure who exactly reported that or what the rumors came from necessarily, but that is what was reported. And an interesting decision to pursue a tight end at this moment, especially with Kevin's tight end love, Colby Parkinson, as well as Will Dissly still on the roster, and it doesn't really make sense to pursue a tight end at this point. I think the only thing that could make this move worth it is if it's a relatively cheap deal, but Jonnu is not going to be a guy that's going to take a little amount of money. So I'm not really sure what the point of it is, but adding more weapons for Russell Wilson would obviously make him happy, I think, but at the same time, this is not a need. So it's a little bit, I kind of like the move in the sense that he's a good player and a target for Russell, but also spending money on a guy that you don't necessarily need a position that's mostly, I would say, secure, is kind of an odd thing, because I'm not sure how well he blocks. I haven't really seen a whole lot of film on how he blocks. I've seen a lot of how he catches, which is good, but it seems like a move to, maybe kind of throw him in the slot. I don't know what, it doesn't really seem like he fits in the tight end mold. Sean, what do you think of this?
I'll keep it short because Kevin can talk about it, but I don't want it, not because Jonnu Smith's actually very underrated, I think. He's not a great blocker, but that's not what you use him for. However, you're going to tell Russell, you want Jonnu Smith or a lineman? Because they're not going to, like you said, they're not going to be able to afford both. And is really a tight end a position of need. So there you go, Kevin. I'll let you go.
All right. Jonnu Smith, I believe, led the league in touchdowns for tight ends last year. He's not going to take anything cheap because he had 10 or 11 touchdowns in the regular season. So he's not good. Yeah, I don't see him coming here for anything less than what Greg Olsen got paid.
I don't think he gets. He's going to ask.
Well, let me ask. It's obviously Kittle, Kelsey, and then what is it, Smith, or like
Darren Waller's really underrated too.
As a complete tight end, I wouldn't put him in there just because his blocking is nowhere near. If you're just talking catching, probably yes, because he is a touchdown end zone machine.
I say Mark Andrews maybe too. Yeah.
But yeah, Mark Andrews, Waller,
Hawkinson.
Gronk technically still very good.
But he's up there, like top around 8, ish in the league. Yeah.
So I mean, honestly, I think even though it's not proven yet, and like I said, I'm a big homeboy of him, I think you have that pass catching thing in Parkinson. That's what he was known for at Stanford, and he's 6'7" and fast as heck. He ran like a 4.6, 4.5 for 6'7". That's pretty dang impressive. At 2, I think it's 240. So honestly, you should. I mean, you could bring those two in, just bring back Luke Wilson as a body to be your third if one of them gets hurt, because Luke Wilson knows the system and it's going to be dirt cheap. You can bring it back at league minimum and you're saving yourself some money. Like, I get Russell Wilson wants weapons, but you have weapons that you could learn to see what you have in Kobe Parkinson and go get a alignment, like maybe like this Isaiah Wilson kid who's in trouble that just wandered out of Tennessee type of deal. Let's see. I'd rather have you upright to throw to the weapons you already have. So,
like Kevin, elite quarterbacks make their weapons around them better. And like what we said before, let the kids you liked enough to draft play. Let Will Dissly, let Parkinson play. If you like them enough to draft them, let them play. And Russell will take care of the rest and protect Russell with the O-lineman. Don't go out and pay the third most for a tight end. Instead.
2 years ago, Will Dissly was going off on people, and then he got hurt. Like you've seen the upside of what Will Dissly can do, and give Kobe Parkinson a chance to prove himself, to show what he did at Stanford, and see if he can do that in the league. And then you can just have Luke Wilson as a body. I mean, he's not bad for what you're going to pay for league minimum, and he knows your system. So
I would personally take Jacob Hollister, but that's just me.
No, you're splitting hairs between those two. Who cares?
I'd rather take Luke Wilson just because he's bigger, he blocks better.
Neither of them block great.
Neither of those guys are going to be
1A, 1B.
Like we're just third down out there for me.
Like last year, there was just so much where like Hollister just got blown up by a corner, and I'm like, Hollister, you're a tight end, and you get just blasted by 5-10 corners over here. I'm like, seriously, what's going on, bro? Like, all right, moving on.
All right. So I did want to mention real quick that the Packers did release offensive tackle Rick Wagner. He would have counted against $4.25 million against their cap. So I thought it was quite a surprising move, but I know they do need to free up some cap space to kind of move around and make some more moves to kind of put that team over the top. Do you guys think that is a worthy addition? Because he was going to be paid $4.25 million, maybe a few-year deal, 3 years, $15 million. I think that sounds fairly reasonable for a guy who played on a line that had a lot of security. I don't know what his Pro Football Focus grade is, but I'm sure Sean will probably be able to find it.
Okay. It was 22nd out of, he was only about 6 to 7 slots ahead of Scherf at our right tackle. So honestly, you're not getting a whole much higher upgrade in him. In my opinion, what I would do is if Scherf wants to come back,
Shell.
Oh,
you keep saying Scherf. Yeah.
God, Shell. I don't know. Nobody knows his name. He's just the dude that, because he was dead for half the season. I personally would rather go get see if you can make an Isaiah Wilson happy. Go get a guy that's gonna fill that slot for the next 4 years versus a maybe.
What does it take to get Wilson from Tennessee though? He's still under their control. You can't just take him.
Give him a first round.
Oh, stop.
Give him Diggs.
Shoot.
We don't have any picks. What are we doing?
Give him Jamal Adams. They need pass rush anywho.
But I get what you're saying, Kevin. But yeah, don't sign this guy. Not. I'm talking about Jonathan Smith, but
Wagner.
The Packer. Yeah, he's fine. I say wait.
Sucks too.
I say wait for a couple till they shake out, because more people are gonna get cut here because of all the things they need, and see who can kind of get the best deal. See who's willing to take kind of a deal for you, because you don't need not a shell, like Kevin said, you can get a little better than a shell, but you don't need a Bakhtiari. You don't need to pay a Lang a ton of money for a guy. You just need to upgrade. Well, you would, but you don't need to go top position at every O-lineman. Russell just wants
you do need to fill it out with some guys that
you don't have to commit to somebody right away before you know who's all cut. Don't commit right now, but definitely kick the tires on him. Absolutely, he's an upgrade.
All right, so gentlemen, we've got about 10 minutes left in the show, so let's go back to some Mariners discussion here. So I have ESPN Plus because, I split it with some friends, but that's not the point. So on
it was
ESPN,
$5. You split $5.
It makes it cheaper. Would you rather pay $1 or $5? There you go. All right. So Kylie McDaniel of ESPN rated the top 10 prospects in each American League team, and I have pulled the Seattle Mariners top 10 prospects. So I want you guys to tell me how many of these guys see action in 2021. So I'm just going to list them off according to Kylie McDaniel. Number 1, Jared Kelenic. Number 2, Julio Rodriguez. Number 3, Logan Gilbert. Number 4, Emerson Hancock. Gilbert and Hancock are both right-handed pitchers, for those who don't know. Taylor Trammell, a center fielder. Noelvi, is it Noelvi Marte?
Yeah, Marte.
Okay. Shortstop, George Kirby, right-handed pitcher. Cal Raleigh, catcher. Brandon Williamson, a left-handed pitcher, and Wyatt Mills rounds out the top 10 as a right-handed pitcher. So, gentlemen, we've kind of talked a little bit about the prospects and the who's going to make the roster this year and all that sort of thing. So, looking at these players, who do you think is going to make at the very least, their Mariners debut, and who is going to be a mainstay in the roster in 2022? So, Sean, I'm going to throw it to you first here.
Okay. Well, I will change number 10. I love you, Wyatt Mills, but the number 10 is Sam Donpline because, like, everybody basically says he is. So I will say Jared makes it. Logan Gilbert makes it. Trammell will make it. And then I'll say Sam makes it. Sam Donpline at number 10. So what is that, 4?
I think you have 5,
I will say Hancock is a maybe because he hasn't pitched yet, and Raleigh is a maybe. Raleigh just needs to, like, do a little bit more stuff, but like Kevin said, he's probably my number, like, 4.5, like, is just like right there. And Marte will probably switch to third base because he's too big.
So those guys are gonna play. Are they gonna be on the roster in 2022, or do they get sent back down?
Oh, anybody, like, the only one that maybe will happen to is Trammell, and Trammell will get sent back down. He'll be traded again. Because, again, we talked about this with the whole Kyle Lewis. You have Mitch Haniger, you have Kyle Lewis, you have Jared Kelenic, Julio Rodriguez, and Trammell. Not to mention anybody else. Like, you have 5 guys and you have 3 positions. Somebody, at least one, has to go. So I think Trammell's the odd man out, unfortunately, of this next group recently. Yeah. I think Mitch Haniger might be traded during the year if he's doing well, because he's got 2 years left. So I think it'll be Kelenic, Trammell, and Kyle Lewis in the outfield at the end of the year. And that's a very athletic outfield. I got news for you. So that'll be fun to watch. I think Logan Gilbert will make its appearance and take Justin Dunn's rotation spot. I think Sam Donpline will play in the bullpen. And my 4.5 guy that makes it, Cal Raleigh, will probably, oh man, if I had to commit, I'd say no, he doesn't make it this year. No, so I'll say 4.
Kevin, what do you think?
Yeah, pretty much kind of the same thing. They already kind of mentioned to add on to Sean's that Cal Raleigh probably will get called up, and I think he probably will, just because I always freaking forget his name, but I love him because he's sexy, big jacked. Tom Murphy has a history of getting hurt. Like, so I have a feeling that
are they gonna force him up because another guy gets hurt? Because they did just trade for a catcher.
I don't think he'd be main.
They did just trade for Luis.
Yeah,
Curran. So
that's true. I don't know if they bring him up to be main, but maybe to be alternate.
That's why I say 4.5. I think it depends on if Murphy gets hurt or not. Then he's the guy. But if he's not, if they're both healthy, do you think he gets called up? That's why I said 4. That's why I said 4.5. Kevin.
I'd say be September. Yes, I'd say get called up in September.
Okay, I can see it.
Just because he's at that point, I think you got to see what you have in him, type of deal. Especially like if let's just say Tom Murphy does what I think he's going to do and like pops off 30 bombs, you might have another Aaron Nola situation where people are interested in him. And then you got to see, be like, well, does Cal Raleigh, is our prospect catcher, have anything, worth it?
I think it would depend on how he's doing at that point, though.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, of course. Yeah.
He struggled a little bit at AA 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but I agree.
You might see Marte.
Novelli? No, there's no way.
I don't know.
He's
young.
That's the one. He will be the last one of that group to be called up. He hasn't played above rookie ball. I just don't see him playing.
Yeah.
Don't get my hopes up like that, Kevin. I want to see that kid more.
I
want to see that kid more than anybody. But
man, sorry. You're not going to see Julio. Yeah, Logan and Emerson might have, like you said, might have a shot. Kirby will probably, if Kirby does, he'd probably be August, September call up, I would say. But the main two, Gilbert and Kelnick, you are definitely going to see, and you're probably going to see him earlier. Kelnick's probably going to be the one you're going to see the earliest, then followed by Logan Gilbert. Other than that, yeah, that's about.
You think Trammell makes it?
Oh yeah, probably Trammell too, just because. Yeah, you got to see what you have in him too, and also for trade.
So give me your names going down the list. Who makes it
on the roster this year, or next year?
This year.
Who gets called up this year and plays?
Well, I mean, September call-ups.
It counts if they play in baseball this year.
All right, Kelnick, Gilbert, Hancock, Trammell, Kirby,
and Raleigh.
Yeah, Raleigh.
Okay. Kevin just included the two that I said was maybe on anyway, so that's all that really changed. So
just because too, like the one thing that struggled, honestly too, I could probably see maybe Williamson or Miller, just because our bullpen is what's been struggling.
But I think those will be the lower guys. I think those will be the lower guys that get called up.
At the same time too, if you bring up Emerson and Loger, then like you said, you can put Justice or Dunn into bullpen rotations, and then you don't even have to bring them up.
Yeah, that's that. You get the back end of that rotation issue. I think it's who's not doing it well. Could Kikuchi go to the bullpen, or
Kikuchi probably will. I imagine. I'd probably say, probably Kikuchi first, just because
I think it's done at this point. Dunn has to be the first one to go.
Kikuchi, just because he comes from Japan and he's not used to long-term ball though. At the same time.
His advanced numbers were very good, and Dunn's were not. Basically, they should have had opposite numbers last year. Kikuchi was just super unlucky.
So, but I'm excited to see it. So, nevertheless, it's gonna be a fun year. Don't expect playoffs, but
Kikuchi's ERA was 5.1, and his fielding independent percentage, which is what his ERA kind of should be, was 3.3. He was basically 2 points full above what he should have been. He was just unlucky, man. That's just what it was.
I'm excited to see him. I hope they all improve. So
yeah. Well, I mean, based on what you guys tell me, it sounds like we'll see some of the future this year. So that'll be at least nice to see. So we will have at least one game to talk about when we are recording next, because the Mariners begin spring training next Sunday against the Padres. So we'll kind of get at least an early look of, who might be possibly making the roster early and then who's going to be called up later. So let us know what you think of the top 10 prospects and who you think is going to see some action this year in a Seattle Mariners uniform. Go ahead and tweet at us. I am at Beatty_Matt. Sean is at Sean_Beatty. Kevin's at Kevin Believes the first team believes being 3. Gentlemen, we are almost wrapped up on time here with an hour, but I do want to end on a nicer note here. So the Seahawks, there was a lot of reminiscing about that victory that they had in 2014 on February 2nd. So there was a lot of reminiscing on Twitter. I just want to ask you guys, what is your Super Bowl victory memory, and where were you? Okay, it's kind of like something that I think a lot of us remember. I'm just going to start with my story. So I was living at this time in Manson, Washington, at working at a newspaper in Chelan. And I remember I got home, turned on the game. It was just me in my apartment. I was watching the game. And then after halftime, Percy Harvin ran back that touchdown. And my editor at the time, she didn't live too far away from me. Her name was Amber. And she was like, hey, let's just go to the bar just down the hill. Let's go watch the end of the game. And so went down the hill, just got a couple Roman Cokes, watched the Seahawks win the Super Bowl with my friend Amber. And it was a great time because you've never seen a bar happier in the Northwest when there's a bunch of Seahawks fans watching the Seahawks win, let alone a Super Bowl, because we've all watched a game in a bar together. And, we watched the 2014 NFC Championship game together. And I remember that year I came home and we watched that Texans game early in the year where they were down like 20-0, and then they made a comeback and were able to win. So that year obviously stands out for the Seahawks because they won the Super Bowl. But that was my Super Bowl memory when they won it. I was not able to go to the parade, unfortunately. I wish I was, but nevertheless, hopefully we get another opportunity. Sean, what about you?
I was at Uncle Sam's Saloon in Kennewick, Washington. We got able to get a seat there. It was jam-packed, crowded. There was only like 2 Broncos fans. There are 2 things I remember is being very nervous with my now wife. She was told I was like, I might cry if they win. She was very disappointed that I didn't cry. And I said, well, once Percy Harvin returned that touchdown, there was nothing to get emotional about. The game was over. There was no suspense. The Seahawks just dominated. It was over. And the other one was my buddy Scotty, Wazoo Scotty on Twitter, who opened a pack of Skittles and actually accidentally slapped a Denver Bronco fan in the face with the pack of Skittles to add insult to injury. He spent the next quarter apologizing to that person profusely, but they were in their own world at that point, the poor Broncos fan. But those are the 2 things I remember the most about that Super Bowl.
Kevin?
I was actually at the very same place as Sean.
Whoa.
At the same table.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, we were just staring at each other with middle fingers, looking at each other the whole time. I remember those things that he said. I remember it was a free taco bar for getting in there, and actually the tacos were pretty dang good. I was kind of surprised.
You say your memory of the game was the tacos were pretty good.
I want, because they had like drawings for contests and stuff like that, and I won a picture of Marshawn, like a framed photo that's, I don't know if it's signed, I can't remember, of Marshawn Lynch in the 2012 wild card game against the Washington football team, breaking like 3 people to dive in for like a first, I think it's like a first down or a touchdown, one of the 2. But I have it on my wall right now. I'm looking at it. And it's still in my man cave. I remember winning that, and I was like, holy crap, this is freaking awesome. The main thing I remember, and Sean knows this very well too, when we actually did Uncle Sam's for quite some time, for like weekly and stuff, especially in big moments, the Seahawk chant would always be started by me, pretty much.
Yeah.
And I would be screaming, because I can get very loud with my scream. I would be very hoarse the next day, of course, but it's all worth it, especially when you win the Super Bowl. I still have the recorded video. It's on my YouTube. I don't know if it's private or not, but of me just freaking out, screaming, saying all the naysayers thank you and stuff like that. Because everybody picked the Broncos pretty much, which at the time they were at that time one of the statistically better, offenses ever to play the game, so to speak. And everybody just picked them because they're like, oh, everybody's got over 1,000 yards on receiving and crap like that, and Seahawks don't have a chance. And it was the exact opposite. So unfortunately, I didn't get to go to the parade. I still regret it to this day that I should have took it off, because my boss was stupid, and she's like, no, you can't go. And I was just like, oh, yeah. And I should have just took it off. It would have been totally worth it. If they ever have another one and there's no COVID restraining stuff, I will definitely go. I don't give a crap what my boss.
I might go COVID or not at this point.
Man.
Just how many other times? How many other chances will we have, Kevin?
Technically, I'll be vaccinated, but at the same time, too, you still got to be cautious. But
fair.
Yeah, like hopefully another one comes down the line, and we'll be partying in the streets and throwing Skittles everywhere. So I don't give a crap if Marshawn's out there. I'm still gonna be throwing Skittles. So
just don't throw them at the opposing team's fans, please.
Yeah, it was. I will say again. I don't know if I read it. It was unintentional. He opened the bag and it accidentally just like flung out and hit the fan all in the face. And of course, the only person at the other table that hit was the only Broncos fan. So
did you at least give him the Skittles afterwards? Like you can have them.
It was after a touchdown. I think it was after the Harvin touchdown too. So it was just like, not only did the game end, but he got pelted in the face with Skittles, and my buddy Sky felt so bad the whole rest of the game.
I was on a super sugar rush because I had drinking like probably at least 2 pitchers worth of Pepsi and had a whole bag of Skittles.
You had everyone at that table had more than a bag of Skittles. There was we brought legitimately there was
my
7 of us at the table,
probably
and there was
around 10,000.
There's about 30 bags of Skittles. And there's about 7 of us at that table. Like
so much.
Yeah, I didn't want Skittles for a while after that. I'm so sorry, Marshawn.
Well, I mean, I'm sure Marshawn understands, but Skittles is probably more upset about it than Marshawn is. But let us know what your Seahawks memories are of that Super Bowl. Go ahead and tweet at us. I'm at Matt. Sean's at Sean_Beatty. Kevin's at Kevin Believes with the first name Believes Me with 3. Go ahead and subscribe to us on YouTube. Follow our page on the Eli Network. I am going to be broadcasting some high school games. It doesn't look like I'm going to be doing any this week, but I was able to cover Yelm versus Olympia last Friday. That was a good game to watch. Good to see some live football again. And I was able to broadcast some Tenino girls soccer, and I'm hoping to do that next week as well as another football game. So follow me on Twitter if you want any prep football updates while you're out here. Maybe even some prep girls soccer if you're interested in that as well. So anything else you guys want to plug, gentlemen? Anything else? No? I saw the Sharks lost tonight. It's not very good. All right. So for that, we will see you next time on Washington East to West Sports.
Thumbnail.